Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Bricker Boom, and we are back with another episode of Pokemon by Daylight, where we are taking the killers and, sooner rather than later, the survivors of Dead by Daylight and giving them a full team of 6 Pokemon. Now, when it first started out, I said that I wasn't going to be providing the people unevolved Pokemon, but as we've been starting to go through this, sometimes the unevolved Pokemon actually fit a little bit better, so you may see some unevolved Pokemon going through. We are still trying to stick with a no legendaries and no mythical Pokemon rule, though we did accidentally break that the first episode, but it's fine. In this particular episode, we are going to be covering Wesker, Oni, and Spirit. Now, if you are unaware, Oni and Spirit are essentially related within the whole universe thing, and Wesker, I mean, just look at him. Look at the boy. He's right there. Look at him. He's hot. Anyway, let's go ahead, hop into it first. We're going to start with Wesker. Here's his backstory.
The prototype is the original virus. It is the T virus that he basically was able to control with.
So they're different?
Yeah, they're very different. Because the Ouroboros is from this African, essentially, parasite that he is able to control because he has the prototype virus in him. Because I expect better of you, and obviously
I think we can all agree that's a mistake.
Albert Wesker was a high-ranking official in the Umbrella Corporation. Believing himself the best test subject, he exposed himself to the prototype virus. Now with superhuman strength, Wesker faked his own death and went underground with a new plan. Expose the world to Ouroboros, a biological weapon that would eliminate the weak and leave only the strong. Eventually exposing himself to the Ouroboros, he began to evolve in ways he could have never imagined. But as he felt his cells change, a strange black fog seeped into the hangar and filled his vision. When the fog finally dissipated, he found himself in another world, surrounded by lesser beings that deserved to be put out of their misery. A visionary as brilliant as he is ruthless, Albert Wesker's strategic mind is unrivaled. While some plans require intellect, others call for brute force. Rush forward to seize survivors in your grasp and give them the gift of Ouroboros. His perks allow him to vault faster, see other survivors' auras while carrying one, and cause survivors to be permanently broken when the exit gates are powered. Just don't forget to call him Daddy.
So, with Wesker essentially just wanting to infect everyone and everything, I feel like the best team for him would be Parasect, due to the parasite that is growing on its back, Tangrowth, due to the Ouroboros virus looking like a vine kind of growing up its arm, and Tangrowth is made of vines. It's a giant spaghetti monster, essentially. Eldegoss, due to the cotton fluff being able to be spread by the wind alone, I feel if somebody has an ultimate goal to infect as many people as possible, something like this would be very, very tempting. Breloom, because what happens, while it's fighting, it's also trying to infect you, which is essentially what happens in DBD with his rush attack. He choke slams you in the best possible way up against the wall, but it also affects you with the Ouroboros virus. I hope I'm saying this right. Shinotic, due to the spreading the spores and sapping vitality from the victims. And then finally, due to the steel spikes that it has, Ferrothorn. Because in the Mori, we see us slap Wesker or punch him, and it does nothing. And also, in the game, we see him falling in lava and still being alive, albeit for a short period of time, so it's safe to say that he has a very hard body, and that just sounds weird now that I've said it, but I can't take it back. Alright, so next up on the list we have the Spirit. Now, I do just want to go ahead and preface the Spirit's team, or not team, but the Spirit's backstory is kind of rough, so I'll put a little tag in on when you may want to skip, just to make you aware.
All right, I'm gonna read it right now. Here we go.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay. I forgot her name was Rin. That's so cute. Rin was the only child of the Yamaoka family. She started attending a private university, which weighed heavily on her family's shaky finances. Her mother got ill that same year, and the bills started piling up. Rin worked part time in a futile attempt to help lighten the load. Her father faced a debt that grew without end. He started working double shifts in hope of obtaining a promotion. That's when he started losing sleep. A dark whisper would keep him up awake all night, reminding him of his hopeless situation. Exhausted, he started to lose grip of reality. Fighting to deny what the voice whispered at night, Rin's father made a desperate move. He met with his superior and explained his situation. He begged for a bonus, an advance, time off, anything. His request was not only denied, but he was also fired.
Is this
That
America?
evening, Merca! That evening, Rin came home from her work job, but words, damn it. That evening, Rin came home from her work. As she parked her bike in the shed, she heard her mother's scream come from the house. She rushed in, climbing up the stairs to her parents' room. There she found bits and pieces of her mother on the floor. Her limbs were clean cut, tangled up in an unnatural position. Her breasts were sliced up, revealing her rib cage, which was cracked open. Rin gagged. A sharp katana came crashing down. Rin blocked the blade, but which bit into her forearm. The shock of recognition interrupted her pain. Her father was wielding the katana with a stoic expression. She cried out to make him stop, but he slashed her arm again. She rushed off and slid on the blood-smeared floor. The katana ripped through the wall, cleaving her other arm. She screamed in pain as she limped into the hallway, only to be met by her father's blade. She stepped back, trembling, as she held together the soft, loose flesh of her abdomen. Rin charged at her father, making him stumble back. He punched her torn abdomen and she recoiled in pain. As she struggled to get back up, he slashed her thigh, making her collapse on the floor. As she crawled toward the stairs, he grabbed her hair and yanked her up against a partition. The glass shattered on impact and she fell through, landing one floor down. She heard footsteps somewhere above her. With effort, she moved, worming her way into. Oh god, I hate this. With effort, she moved, worming her way into a sea of broken glass. The shards gnawed at her, ripped her flesh. He had to be stopped. He would not get away with what he'd done to her, what he'd done to her mother. Coughing up blood, her chin grazed the glass, adding to the bleeding. A low-pitched heartbeat started to ring in her ears. Her body felt so heavy as she could no longer move. The ground shook with her father's footsteps. She knew she was not going to make it, but she no longer cared. She can pay with his life or the next. A dark fog slowly veiled her eyes, but she could no longer subdue her rage. She would not rest. Not yet. The darkness whispered, promising blood and revenge. An oath was made, and Rin closed her eyes. The spirit is a phase-walking killer, able to catch survivors off guard with her traversal power, Yamaoka's haunting. While her power allows her to teleport from one place to another, the spirit and survivors cannot be seen by one another. Instead, survivors are revealed by their scratch marks, breathing, and interactions with the environment. Blah 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 blah. Words are fucking hard. Each chase becomes a battle of wits, a duel where only the sharpest mind games prevail.
So, with the spirit, the team that I have chosen for her is Scyther, due to the cleaving like arms resembling her katana, Kangaskhan, due to its add on for spirit, and the Kangaskhan entry being that its love is so deep it will die to protect its family. Poltergeist, due to the Japanese tradition, it's not odd to have served tea at some point or another. Mousehold, because they live together like a family would, but their relationship is still very much unclear. And then Marowak, Alolan specifically due to the undying love for its mother, carrying around both the skull, and I believe it states that the bone is also from its mother. And then finally, Primeape, due to its intense rage and focusing on one person when it is angered, much like she did with vengeance for her father. So with that being said, Spirit's full team would be Scyther, Kangaskhan, Poltergeist, Mousehold, Marowak, and Primeape. So, the final person that we have up here today is going to be Oni. And this is his backstory.
This guy is the ancestor to Spirit.
That's how they're related. Okay.
Oh God. Okay, so you guys ready for this one?
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay, me neither. Okay, here we go. Honoring his family name was never enough for Kazan Yamaoka, the ancient ancestor to the spirit Rin Yamaoka. Yep, yummy. Yep, yum, num, 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 num. The
Already off to a
ancient.
great start.
I fucking hate you. The ancient ancestor to the spirit Rin Yamaoka. He wanted to surpass his father's reputation and end what he saw as the thinning of the samurai culture, with farmers often posing as samurai. His father tried to turn Kazan's attention to more noble pursuits, but Kazan refused to heed his advice and borrowed his father's katana, just fucking yeeted it. He embarked on a dark pilgrimage to prove his worth and rid Japan of impostors. Ignoring the code that had been taught to him, Kazan killed impostors in the hills and valleys, on the beaches and in the woodland. The killings were brutal, cruel, and morbid. He humiliated farmers and warriors alike, yanking off their top knots and stripping them of their armor. His rage, bloodlust, and perverse sense of honor knew no bounds. Monks believed he was possessed by something dark and otherworldly, and cursed him with a noble lord. Be- While a noble lord began to call him Oni Yamaoka, the rageful samurai, an insult both to Kazan and his family. As Kazan made for the lord's town, he suddenly found himself face to face with a samurai standing on a dirt road blocking his way. Kazan readied his kanambo. Without a word, the samurai attacked and quickly secured the upper hand, but he hesitated. With a devastating blow, Kazan crushed the samurai's head and cracked his helmet. As Kazan approached the fallen samurai, he saw his father's face and staggered back on his haunches. His father stared at Kazan with mingled shame and regret as he issued his last breath. Kazan closed his eyes and screamed in agony until he could scream no more. When he opened his eyes again, his father was gone. Not only had he killed his father, but he allowed thieves to steal his body and armor. Bitter, lost, and disillusioned, Kazan roamed the land aimlessly with his father's voice rattling in his head, taunting him, reminding him of his failures, sending him into fits of uncontrollable black rage. With renewed anger, Kazan journeyed to a town high up in the snowy mountains where the lord resided. A dozen samurai met Kazan at the gates of the town. A dozen samurai fell to his kanambo. His speed and strength were unmatched. His rage was incomprehensible. Covered in blood and gore, Kazan battled through the town and soon found the lord hiding in a villa. He dragged him out of a cabinet, sliced his tendons to immobilize him, and watched him beg and squirm like a dog. Without hesitation, he thrust his fist into the lord's mouth and yanked out the wicked tongue that had desecrated his name. Satisfied, Kazan exited the villa to find himself surrounded by dozens of farmers wielding rusted scythes, sharp pitchforks, and heavy clubs. He survived the first few assaults, but there were too many attackers coming from every direction. Within moments, Kazan was on the ground staring at a cold, indifferent, darkening sky as farmers took turns stabbing and torturing the Oni who had butchered their beloved lord. The frenzied mob dragged Kazan into a small stone mill to continue the torture and finally left him to die a slow, agonizing death. When they returned, the mill was filled with a strange black fog, and Kazan's body and the kanambo were nowhere to be found. It was the beginning of a dark legend about a rageful Oni haunting the town.
So, for the Oni, we gave him a team of Mian Shao. Due to the continuous attacks, soaring up power before delivering a finishing blow, much like he does when he's picking up his little gumdrops, and then whoop-ha! Crabominable, because before it stops to think, it just starts pummeling, which again could speak to the rage state that Oni goes into. Golurk, because it's a giant golem, you remove the seal on its chest, and it will just go out of control, destroying everything in its path. There's a pattern here. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Golisod, because it will do anything to win a fight. Spiritomb, because it was formed by 108 spirits bound to an item, much like the Oni killing so many people. And while I disagree with it, I could not find anything that seemed to be okay. Rhino, being the person that he is, chose Berserker. I think it's goofy, but apparently it fits because of the whole Viking time period and all that. You don't listen to him. But that is his team: Mian Shao, Crabominable, Golurk, Golisod, Spiritomb, and Berserker. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this particular installment of Pokemon by Daylight. They have been running a smidge long, just because the characters that we are going over have a pretty decent backstory. What you'll find in a lot of these is that the characters that were created very early on don't have too much of a backstory, and then the newer characters, the backstory gets longer and longer. That's why we try to combine an amount of fairly older character, newer characters somewhere in the middle, rather than all three new characters. Because if we did, the video would be an hour. Um, Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this if you want to see more content. If you ever want to hang out on Twitch, I also stream on there. So, as we always say at the end of every video, if you like the video, even if you didn't like the video, think about hitting the like and subscribe button because it really does help me out. And until next time, everybody, peace out.
Candy Mountain, Charlie. Candy
Candy
Mountain.
Mountain.
Oh, fuck, they took my kidney!